and Joe, and thanks for popping by Meaning Fueled, where we take your problems of practice, your POPs, and have a meaningful discussion about where they come from and where to go from here.
We are 4 longtime educators bringing our diverse experiences to the table.
We're harnessing all the energy of popping into your teacher bestie's classroom and bringing it straight to your ears.
Let's get poppin' with today's problem of practice.
All right, you guys ready for this one?
Bring it.
You sit down for your nightly, let's call it a doom scroll, through social media, and you come across classroom after classroom of beautifully curated and themed out classrooms that just look like a dream.
Yes.
There's custom murals, thoughtfully designed sensory centers, individual nooks for every single one of the 25 students. There's coordinated LED lights, the meticulously designed bulletin boards just measured to the millimeter, and there's not a single item not labeled or laminated. You drop your phone in your head in shame because that is certainly not what your classroom looks like. So are you a bad teacher? What really is the expectation of how to decorate your space?
That is a real problem of practice. And we've all been on that doom scroll.
I mean, I'm just gonna say it. I loved it. I loved decorating and setting up my classroom. I would spend full days after like working, we'll call it a full-time job in the summer, directing a summer camp. I would spend like the 2 weeks I had in between that ending and school starting in my classroom, sweating to death because there's no air conditioning, but like very much lining up the corner to the corner and making sure the bulletin board paper looked perfect. And if it didn't, I would take it down and retry and then go to the store and buy more bulletin board paper because I had to retry again.
And making sure it was flat and that the humidity would crinkle it back up and we'd have to start that over again.
You have to just smooth it out and then make sure it's perfect. And then once that's perfect, that's when the yardsticks come out. The yardsticks come out to make sure you're centered and letters are just right. And sometimes those letters, too small, gotta fix them. Too big, gotta fix them. All of that was like important to me. I didn't mind spending those days in my classroom because I liked doing it and I liked having it look a certain way and feel a certain way. And that was, that was me. The 18 hours I spent finding a way to crossword puzzle all the kids' names so I could put a Scrabble bulletin board together to welcome them to the school.
And then come to find out those letters were too big.
They
and
were
she did
too
them
big.
over again.
They were too big. They didn't fit on the board. It's ridiculous. And I did make them all in one night and then do the board the next day because I had to.
And it was a beautiful board.
Thank you so much.
And I'm a big believer in the idea that I'm gonna be here every day, right? And I don't know, you walk into office buildings, and I do that frequently when I find stuff for free on Facebook Marketplace that they're throwing away that I want to bring to my classroom.
When you're doom scrolling on Facebook.
When I'm doom scrolling on Facebook Marketplace at night, and they've got all these fun stools and whatnot. It's when you walk in there and it's not a 1950s waxed floor building. It is a nice place to work, and so I think teachers wanting their space to be a nice space, just I don't know, other professionals would expect a nice space at their job, is not unrealistic. And I definitely, maybe not Sarah's degree of perfection, but I definitely spent my fair share of time doing my room every year. And yet, I certainly learned to love fadeless paper or better than paper and be okay with though it's a little crinkled, but that's gonna stay up for this year. It's okay, there's a couple of staple holes.
Yeah, but next year you're gonna have to fix that because you can only let that go for so long.
Yeah.
Shout out to better than paper though. That saved my life a million times over.
Well, because you moved into a new building.
I did.
Where they basically ran out of money.
We had no bulletin boards.
Yeah.
We had no shelving. We had no anything. So when you meticulously redid, oh, absolutely not. I individually thumbtacked up every single bulletin board. And can I make
Thumbtacked?
straight lines? Absolutely not. I had to thumbtack.
They
I
wouldn't let
couldn't
them put like
staple,
any sticky
couldn't
things.
staple, couldn't do tape, couldn't
on-
do anything
yeah,
sticky.
zoom
I had
building.
to thumbtack.
I
Mini
remember-
hammer. Always have a mini hammer.
I remember
Super
you
helpful.
telling me this and like wanting to just like cry and then give you a hug because like
And I'm on a
And it looks
military base.
sterile.
Sad.
Like it needed it because like it was a new building, but like not new where they like did wood tones and whatnot. No, it looked
Yeah.
like a hospital.
And,
Yeah.
and military base. I didn't have any teacher besties that could come help me put it up. So I
offered
individually
every single
by
year.
myself because I can't get them onto base. Sitting there with my hammer and my 3 stools because I'm short, getting up on 8 tables. I'm gonna be here to represent the B teachers because this was not my favorite jam. I loved the colors. I loved coordinating. I loved doing things like that. But I was the person who was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go in and do it," and then I'd do it and be like, "That's just not straight." Kids, mistakes
Good
happen.
enough.
Like, this is good enough, and our classroom represents that. So mine came very organically and slowly. My classroom never looked perfect at the start of a year. It was a very slow process over time that I would slowly gather things and try to attempt to make things look better, and then just kind of resolve to the fact that like it may never look like one of these Instagram classrooms.
And I think it's good that you brought up the like over time because if I actually think back and like reflect on my journey, like my first year, I bought like a bunch of.
oh my god, please say you're gonna talk about the flame border. The flames
You
border
mean-
was my
You mean for
favorite.
the writing restaurant?
Yes, I loved it.
Flames. Come on, you need that on the bulletin
It was
board.
perfect.
Um,
too.
But I bought a bunch of like kitschy shit, like that, like posters for the sake of posters,
Sure, yes.
or like this bulletin board set. Like it, I
yeah.
felt like I needed
Stuff.
every
You needed
surface
stuff.
covered, and like it was useless. Like I have like literally thrown all of that out by now, and I can't just. I have to not think about how much money it costs. But I definitely learned over time that like there was a certain amount of like I'm leaving this bulletin board blank because I have like this plan for it. Like
Yeah.
this student project is going up here. They're gonna like design their flags or whatever, and like that's what this is going to be. And I'm okay on day one of it not being like Instagrammable
Well, and I
because
think-
like it's gonna be lived in.
And that's important too when we're talking about our spaces in our classrooms because research and things shows and things we've learned in our college classes of, leaving space available for the student work is also really important. I'm very much like Sarah in a sense that I need everything to be kind of labeled and aesthetically pleasing. I'm also the teacher that has the lamps in the classroom. I turn half the lights off.
Do you have plants?
I was gonna say you
Plants
better be
and plants.
careful. I feel like the fire department comes through for their little like walkthroughs, and you gotta
Hide the mini fridge.
hide your lamp.
I have not had a fire department issue.
Oh god.
Yes.
Wow.
Hopefully. But yes. No, I do not have a plant. I have a fake plant. I can't keep plants alive. I killed a succulent in my classroom. But I feel like many people will come into my classroom and tell me how calming it is in my room, and that is for the students, but it's also for me because my classroom is a space that I want to come to every day. My house is very organized and neat, and so my classroom needs to also be very organized and neat so that I'm not coming in with chaos and I'm able to kind of do my thing in my classroom too.
Well, I think there's also something to be said of like the kids bring so much chaos and things to the classroom that like I need something to be steady and the way I would prefer it to be is how I will say it. So like, okay, I'm relabeling all the book bins for the 3rd time because I made a mistake on that one and now it's driving me bananas. Like, that's just, I don't know, that worked for me.
And I think that's where my reality set in, where I was like, I just spent so long labeling all of those book bins, and within, 2 weeks, that kid has ripped this one, or this one's broken, or this one's gone here. And I think that's the reality, is that chaos is going to happen. So, like, if I became type A about it, I was like, that's going to drive me crazy. That,
And like,
it only
I'm gonna
lasted
be,
2 weeks.
yeah, I'm gonna be honest. Like that became like a problem for me. Like, especially when you're putting your own money in.
Yeah.
Like I remember
Absolutely.
buying like shout out really good stuff like their book bins.
Oh, I love
Because-
those bins.
100%.
Sarah
Right.
introduced me to that, and
I love those book bins, but like my school was not buying them for me.
No.
So that was like an out of pocket, and like my room was lime green and purple, and so they all needed to be like those shades and alternating. So when I looked over at my bookshelf, it was aesthetically pleasing. And then when inevitably, and it is inevitably, right? Like a kid like yanks on the book bin, and it's like full of books, and it cracks instantly because despite the price, sorry, really good stuff, durability not quite there.
And your heart like cracks along with it.
Yeah, and like I'm like sitting there like fuming and frustrated because I'm a human being. But like when I take a step back, you're like, of course, right? Like it's a classroom full of 8-year-olds. I can't reasonably expect that like things are gonna like stay looking the way that they that they were at the beginning of the year. But I feel like there was this balance then of like, once you put all of this personal money and time and effort into it, that like I found myself, you're more upset when a supply gets abused or broken than you would be if it was just like the school issued, whatever.
Right.
And that's a piece that like I don't see a lot of creators, those people that were like doom scrolling, really talking about.
No.
They certainly, right, those rooms look like they came out of a magazine.
Freaking immaculate. I'm just, oof.
How much
And-
money do you think?
Thousands.
Yeah, it has to be thousands because
Because
I
teacher
can
stuff
tell you-
is expensive.
Right, I was gonna say, I can tell you right now, I spent thousands.
Yeah.
And like, my room looked nice. I'm not gonna like sugarcoat that because
No.
I did put effort and time and money into it. But like, it did not look like that. I didn't, have the
No.
Your boyfriend didn't come in and like build an ark, like
Nope.
I mean,
Or like the ice cream
Yeah.
truck. Did you see
Yeah.
the ice cream truck one? That one was insane and so cool, but like,
It's very cool.
I certainly
Or
didn't
being
have
able
that.
to paint. I'm like, what building
Oh,
let you
that's
paint
true.
every single wall a different color? Like there were also restrictions too. Like I couldn't paint to save my life if I wanted to.
Yeah.
I did illegally spray paint at some point on the roof of my school because I was like, this
On the
is-
roof?
You got to the roof?
Sharon.
well, I had a roof outside of
was
my
like a roof
classroom,
deck.
so it's like
Oh,
a
I
roof
have
deck.
that too.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, these cardboard mailboxes don't match my aesthetics, and I'm gonna spray paint it.
I do feel that
try
you
to make
did have
sure
to
that
fix
it.
They did have to match aesthetically. So.
They do, but like Joe said, it really gets to the point where, I bought a comfy pillow or an alternate seating, and then they sit up against the bookshelf or they sit somewhere else, or it gets
And they break
stained or
it.
something gets broken, and like that is your money down the drain.
Even
And
if it's not, like, I feel like we've all had that, like, dysregulated kid and, like, it feels a little bit more malicious and then it hurts a little bit more. But, like, even the times where, like, they just tried to stick one extra book into that book bin
Right.
and, like, it makes that terrible noise.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. But,
And I look over at you like,
oh, no.
sorry.
But, like, even those, like, normal... I don't even know if I can call it a mistake because it doesn't even feel like big enough to be a mistake.
everyday
like,
occurrences.
right. It just, it hurts a little bit when you spend so much time on it.
And I think it's hard for kids to contextualize how much teachers actually, like, at some point, you're like, who do you think put this all up? Who do you think spent
I've literally
time
given that
doing this?
speech, and it kind of falls on deaf ears because, like,
It really does.
again, they're 8. Like, you're
And
like,
even when they're
"Oh,
older, they still
I
don't
spent
really
money."
understand.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Or they get it for like 5 minutes and then they forgot because,
and they're like, okay.
some 12 other things happened at recess that they are thinking about.
There's something to be said for, like, your classroom's supposed to reflect the kids that are in it. So I know, at least for me, like, I had coworkers who would label everything with every kid's name on 18 different locations all before kids even entered the room. And then you'd get that one kid who's like, actually, don't go by that.
Oh, yeah.
This is my name.
Relabel
And then
it
you
all.
have to
And then you
relabel
relabel it all.
everything. So I was like, no, I'm not labeling anything before that happens. Because it's a lot. Again,
Yes.
it's like, and then it doesn't accurately show them, and they get upset, and then you're
And
like,
the whole reason
oh
you
my
did it in the
gosh,
first place was to make them
make them feel
feel
welcome.
welcome and that their name was everywhere. And yeah,
Have your schools been doing door decorating at all
Yes.
throughout
Yes.
the year.
Yes.
Ooh,
And how was that going?
I was the controversial teacher because my coworkers took over door decorating and they're like, I will help the kids and do all these things. I'm like, nah, it's their door. Like, and again, I have 5th graders, so they're older, but I'm like, they need to learn. Like, if their door, they're gonna own it. Like, they're gonna own what it looks like. So mine looked kid decorated, whereas like 3 down, it was like this gorgeously cricketed cutout like montage.
Let's
and then
not
the
even
kids
get
just,
started
like,
on the cricket.
Oh my god, let's get started
not-
on the
let's
cricket.
not.
I
Let's
love my
not.
cricket.
Sarah and I have crickets. They don't.
We do not.
We love crickets.
And I've only asked for
Listen.
minor cricket.
I was gonna say,
Thanks.
you're welcome to the time you needed a shirt for halfway day dress up day.
Yep.
And I came through
And
at
one of the
9
door
PM.
decoratings, I actually did have you cricket something.
Or
But it
during
was
COVID, when I
largely student
actually knew my
creative.
students' names, so I did have you cricket their name tags.
See?
but-
See?
All right,
So-
we're guilty.
With door decorating, I take a lot of pride in my door.
And you teach 2nd graders, so like
I teach
having
2nd
them
graders.
do it is dicey.
Authentic.
That day.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, for
We wouldn't want to
instance-
see that.
For instance,
dicey.
I had a smart cookies in the house over December, and we did gingerbread. And I made a gingerbread house out of construction paper. I didn't add any of the decor to it. The kids then made all the little candies and
I
stuff.
think that's a nice compromise of like teacher helped.
And then they also did their own gingerbread person.
Yeah.
So it was all the amount of. Oh, look at what Brianna did. Oh, she did that.
Oh, the jealousy
Ooh.
factor was
I
there.
get a lot of flack for being creative. I
agree with that.
I really enjoy doing that stuff. That is something that brings me joy. I enjoy being creative, and part of my creativity comes out in my decor and in my classroom and in my bulletin
Let's
boards.
face it. Isn't that why we became elementary educators? I mean, I'd be lying if I wasn't like, oh, cute bulletin boards.
Right.
And and a lot of that, in some ways has at least in the schools I've worked in recently, it's definitely faded away as the never-ending plate gets piled higher and higher and higher with things and whatnot. People used to have fun bulletin board displays. When I started out, I made a great volcano.
Yeah, that volcano was awesome. And we used to change them.
I would
throughout
change
the
them
year.
monthly with different curricular
Yeah.
units. I had a fun layers of the ocean one.
Yeah, that one was dope.
The kids put the animals into the different layers. It was interactive bulletin boards.
It's so cool.
But I get my mom, who was also an educator, she used to get Mailbox magazine. Is anyone familiar with
Yes,
this?
of course.
Nope.
Yes.
We're a little older than you. But Mailbox magazine was the magazine, I think probably in the 80s, right?
Oh, yeah.
But it predates that even. And they would publish in the magazine bulletin board ideas. Fall into 2nd grade with the apples
yeah.
and the tree,
Oh, and everything's
right?
themed.
Everything is themed, and
Package.
it came out monthly. And I remember when I first started helping my mom do bulletin boards at a Catholic school with terrible paper. She would layer the paper, so it'd be okay, well, I know what my spring bulletin board, I'm gonna want yellow, so yellow's going up first, and then I'm gonna put
This is
blue
a
over
genius
it
hack,
for
by the
winter, and then and
So it's a reveal. You just rip it off, reveal the next one.
after the fall into 2nd grade and the orange background she had for fall, she'd tear that down,
Wow.
and it would be the blue that we put up.
Paving the way.
that's a lot.
Wow.
I mean, if you're going to change your bulletin boards, this is
it was
perfection.
genius. But again, I feel that was the early 90s, when I was helping her do this, and I just don't see that in schools anymore today. That I think and I get it. And the focus should be on,
Of course.
teaching and learning, right?
The actual curriculum.
We certainly believe that, and yet there's this piece of me that I loved doing that with my mom.
Yeah.
It was again, that piece of me that was I kind of want to be an elementary school teacher, right? Because this is the fun
Yeah.
and the fun part of the job, and I don't know, it's fun when the kids do the door decorating contest. You're oh, why don't we do more stuff like this?
And it's it's part of the identity. I think you get to be known, like it becomes part of your identity. I tied my theme to my name because dots are easy.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Fun.
So anything that was dots got to be there. But then it also became like a thing. Like kids knew it. So
Erin's last name is
it's
Dotson.
Dotson. Sorry, I should have that. But it did get to be like kids knew, like, oh, that's Miss Dotson's thing. Like, did you see Dot? She has those for a reason. Although I had one kid who didn't realize it until like April. He was like, oh my God, I understand. And I was like, yo, you've been in this classroom for like 9 months. What's happening?
But he got there. He
But
did
he got
get
there eventually. Win of the year. But I do think there is something to be said that if you feel comfortable and it's part of your identity in space, like you said, you live there every day, that it also translates to kids. So,
all right, let's talk about where to go from here. And when I was trying to think about like advice I would give to teachers about setting up their classrooms, I think first you have to think about where you work. I have not ever had a school tell me these are the expectations for setting up my classroom. Or this is the expectation for your bulletin boards in the hallway. But like, if you have that, then like, I mean, you have to follow the expectations of your school. But if there are no actual expectations, like I think all of us have experienced, then you really do have to just find what works for you. And I don't really think that should be nothing, but I also don't think it needs to be what we're seeing on social media. Like, don't overly commit to those trends and the things you're seeing online. They look pretty. They look gorgeous. I'm obsessed with looking at them, actually. But, like, is that really going to be the most useful for you, for your students? Because at the end of the day, you need the students to learn. So, like, wow, the disco ball on the ceiling is so fun, real cute. Is it helping or is it hurting? I think you have to keep asking yourself that when you're thinking about adding something new or different or kind of outside of the norm.
And Brianna mentioned this earlier, like,
Yeah.
this is researched,
Yeah.
right? And so in preparation for today, I just did a little looking, and I found like a couple of interesting studies. So one came from Fisher, Goodwin, and Seltman. It was called Visual Environment, Attention Allocation, and Learning in Young Children. When is too much of a good thing maybe bad? Right? When I think that's it again. Like, and basically what they did was they slotted kids into two different settings. So we had a highly decorated classroom and a minimally decorated classroom, and they tracked off-task behaviors, visual attention, and learning outcomes. And like, I don't think it will be a surprise that children in the highly decorated classrooms were more distracted, spent more time off task, and actually learned less than peers in the less decorated setting. It's sort of, again, like, it's confirmed. And then there was another one which I thought was interesting. This one was done in the UK. It's by Barrett, Davies, Zhang, and Barrett. And it is the impact of classroom design on pupils' learning. The final results of a holistic multi-level analysis. And so what they did for this one was they looked at the overall environments, and they looked at...
So you're talking like school-wide?
School-wide.
Okay.
And like they looked at things like that we can't control but that we know are important, like natural light, air quality, right? Like that was huge, especially during the pandemic. But they looked at, this was like 27 different schools, over 4,000 students for this. And they concluded that natural light, yes, important. And so again, the people like covering up the fluorescents, I think this is like kind of backed by that. Good air quality and temperature, so
These old buildings really come in.
but then they had moderate visual stimulation, and flexible furniture and personalized spaces. And basically, they concluded that there is this sweet spot, right? That too much or too little visual stimulation can hinder learning. And I think there's so much now kind of coming out about cognitive load and cognitive load theory. And if you look at all of that work, it's also saying that there's like extraneous load, right? And that's all that like extra distracting stuff that like takes kids' attention away from the task of learning. And yet, there's still lots of really good research that says you're supposed to pair your verbal with a visual. right? And that visuals can actually help learning. So like there is this sweet spot.
Well, I'm going to come back because now that Joe has shared that research, my tips feel even better, you
Yeah,
guys.
that's why I was like, they're kind of jiving with what I was reading in these studies.
Because my next tip is to do something that I know Joe and I had jumped both feet into, and then I got Brianna on board, I know that, and I think Erin there too, is just picking a color scheme.
Yes.
It is so much easier when you dedicate to a color family. I'm going to call it a family, because picking one color is hard.
Yep.
Not all blues are the same blue. Even though they're all called royal blue, they're gonna look different. Here to warn you. So pick a family. I picked purple, lime green, light blue, and dark blue. And everything was kind of themed around that. It was easy to find things that matched. When there was something that was like a little bit off, like my rug was a rainbow of colors, but like the focal color, the border of the rug was blue, so it went. And it all just kind of matched. It looked cohesive. It was minimal effort for high impact. So that is my biggest
Yeah, and
tip.
I think like that's where like, you know, you're thinking about investing in stuff or hitting up Dollar Tree and trying to get like bins that match.
Yep.
And there is something visually less distracting about a library that like all the bins are the same, or one where there's like 15 different colors
Right.
and patterns. Like, and again, I think this research would support that is like actually a distracting display, right? Versus like all dark blue bins, right?
Or I did bins that were colored by genre.
Yes.
So like these small pink ones. So it was easier for me to tell a kid like, hey, you're looking for that type of chapter book, go to a pink bin. Like I know it's somewhere in the pink bins. And that was like color coded library so that the kids could know this is what I'm looking for. That's a type of bin I could go for.
And it sounds like, I mean, it's almost like what I hear us saying. What I hear us saying is like, you know, there's decoration and then there's like organization. And like the sweet spot is sort of at that overlap where those two are like complementing each other.
Working together.
Right. In my room, I color coordinate the subjects. So like the bin that you're gonna hand in your math paper is green, and your
Math is green.
The math is green.
Right.
I was going to say, we're getting into a
Yeah.
really controversial...
We're gonna have to come
back.
Math is blue! What is happening?
What is
Okay,
math
maybe
because our curriculum
Time
is
out,
blue.
time out. Wait.
What is
All
that?
right,
We have to stay
we won't
focused.
digress.
We will come back to that because I have a lot to say.
But my teacher hack for bulletin boards and keeping it cohesive, pick one color for your background for your bulletin boards.
That's a good one.
So like black. So when I started, I was lime green and blue, and I couldn't stand that anymore. So I changed it up about 2 years ago. Now all of my bulletin boards are black, and my borders are grays and blues and some eucalyptus greens in it. But keeping with that one color on the background of your border or of your bulletin board gives you an opportunity to do different color, borders that we've, got behind us here. And that way you can do, keep it cohesive, but also explore with different colors that way if you want. The amount of bulletin boards I see that it's like, here's a red bulletin board with like a yellow border, and then literally the bulletin board in the classroom next to it is green and pink, and the other one has tinsel on it, and it's just too visually overstimulating.
And I will give credit to the, teachers that we began talking about, like, their classrooms, I think, they do follow that, right? I mean, everything is cohesive, generally speaking. It may be, like, to the nth degree, but, like, I guess what I'm saying, like, they are creating rooms that, in some ways do hit a lot of these.
Right.
But you can be inspired by that without expecting to reach that level of...
And I think you put things up that are doable and permanent. Like you said, it's like your bulletin board's up, what goes on the bulletin board changes.
Right.
And I think
when you start with like a neutral, I had navy blue, Brianna had black, like it helps like emphasize the kids' work, which is really why I put the bulletin boards up.
Right. And I was going to say, all the stuff that you put on it,
things.
I think one of the best tips I got is that, I think I actually stole it from Joe, but that, when kids make the posters for like the rules of the classroom or what's going up or things that they remember. And then at the end of the year, you auction them off
Yes.
and they all get to take a piece of it
Yes.
home, which helps you undecorate your room so that you don't spend the days after the school year taking all this stuff down. And I know that that's also a school thing, like different rules of what you're allowed to leave up and what you're not. But if you can create some sort of permanent fixture that gives you that flexibility, and that way you don't have to redo the bulletin board every single year, or you could if it brings you joy. Or like me, I was like, this will never come down. This took too long.
Well, and the segue is so good. My next tip is to remember that you don't have to do everything all at once in one fell swoop. You do not need to spend all of the money on the book bins and the student mailboxes, which are also wildly expensive for whatever reason, and the privacy shields, again, wildly expensive for no reason. You don't have to do it all at once. You can change things throughout the year. You can work from year to year as you see what works for you and what doesn't work for you. I just caution people from doing what I know we did, which is spend a lot of money right when you're first starting. And it's money you don't really have because you just got out of college.
And I will say the administrative assistant in our building always says, like, do not buy your own stuff. Like, we have this Amazon budget, we have something, and then you find stuff in the building. Like, you do end up using, can I compromise and use the bulletin board paper that's maybe
But I'm
not
also,
better than
I'm
paper.
gonna be honest though, I'm not here for like the teacher's shame of
No.
don't spend $1 of your own money. Like, you know, I'm an adult. And if I chose to do that because going back to our original, like, it brings me a certain amount of joy, or like, I have to show up there every day, you know, I think that's okay. And like, I even think of some of like the bigger things I did, like that time I enlisted Sarah to help me build a gigantic bookshelf, bench, I don't even know what we called it, Big Bertha.
It was excellent.
I will like drop a picture into somewhere for you all to
whole
see.
week, you guys. And it was 1,000 pounds.
I was so happy.
Give
The
or take.
custodians like were not happy with me.
But then we put it on wheels.
But like, and then I enlisted your dad to help me like sew cushions for it, and
Yes.
like, but it was like a hobby, and it was fun, and like, I guess that's one of the things I want to say to people though too, is that like, yes, it's fine if you don't do something like that, but also like,
It's fine if you do.
it's fine if you do,
Yep.
and don't feel like a ton of shame.
Yeah.
And you know, just make sure that like it is purposeful, and like this had purpose in my room. It was like the piece of furniture that I needed. It created nook like that I wanted, and that again research would support. Like having those like flexible and more private and quiet spaces is actually beneficial for student learning.
But you also used it as like a presentation space,
Oh,
where like you
yeah,
could do like
it's
a
great.
science experiment on top.
Everyone
and all
could
the
gather
kids
around
could
it.
sit around.
It's great.
It was purposeful.
And I also want to not have shame in the other direction, because when you do doom
Right.
scroll through Instagram and you don't have the money and you don't want to do it, then like that's okay too. Like your kids will still learn.
Yes,
if
no
you make
teacher
things-
shame.
Right,
That's
no
it,
teacher shame on
everyone.
either end. Like if that's not your jam, like you can find things in the building to still make a community in a classroom, even though everything's not perfectly coordinated.
And again, like it goes back to like you don't do that all at once. You don't build the bookshelf
Year
in
one.
your first or second year. Like you wait till year, I don't know, when did you do that? 4, 5, something
Yeah.
like that? Where like it became a need, you had an idea, you built out
and
the time to like make
Right.
it work.
I wasn't doing a bunch of other things in my classroom
Right.
that year. Like
Right.
that was the
thing.
project.
Right.
That,
I feel like you have to live in your space.
Yes.
You have to live it. Like I lived in my space. I just did my bulletin, my whole thing over 3 years ago. So
Yeah.
I lived in my space for 7 years.
And I will say that's the unrealistic expectation about a lot of those videos.
Yeah.
Is that people are like, oh, I'm moving rooms and it has to look just like my
Yeah,
old room,
nice.
and like they chronicle it now for us all to see. I mean, it takes weeks, and
Yeah.
all the helpers and all the like. That feels like, again, that really brings them joy. Great, but that seems to like set an unrealistic expectation,
Yes.
and like not one that I would necessarily recommend anyone try to actually replicate.
Yeah, and I think coming back to like a final thought, it's easier said than done, but like don't compare yourself. Don't compare yourself to the teacher down the hall. Don't compare yourself to the people on social media. they have different amounts of time, resources, support that you may or may not have, and like, that's fine. So you need to, coming back to the jump, just find what works for you, and what's going to be highest leverage for your kids, because that at the end of the day is what we're looking for.
Thanks for popping by Meeting Field today. Remember, we are here for you anytime. Our door is always open. You can visit our website at getmeaningfueled.com for ideas or inspiration to bring to your own classroom.
Follow us at Get Meaning Fueled on Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, and Threads, and just Meaning Fueled on Facebook.
You can share your own thoughts on this week's pop by commenting on our posts, and you can also find the full-length video on YouTube.
And you can send us your own pops for us to discuss in future episodes with a DM or at getmeaningfueled@gmail.com.
Thanks, everybody.
See you next time.